Hello, my name is Megan Macareno, and for this presentation, I chose anorexia, which falls under the category of an eating disorder. And I was student A for this part of the presentation, so I will go through my said part. So an overview of anorexia nervosa. So some of us, or many of us, have this idea of what anorexia is in our minds. We actually see it maybe from time to time, or we know somebody who suffers from anorexia, or we ourselves have suffered from it. So what is it? For the very short version, it is not getting enough calorie intake. And this leads to a significantly low body weight. And the person who is suffering from said anorexia will almost have, or will show, not will almost have, but will show a very intense fear of gaining weight. And if they gain weight, they have this fear of, they're already fat or they're becoming fat. So even eating an apple can leave someone who is suffering from anorexia laid up with extreme guilt, or they may automatically assume that they have gained weight just from eating that apple. And while suffering from anorexia nervosa, the person has a very hard time recognizing how serious the situation is and what the seriousness of their current weight actually is, or they're unable to see how thin and underweight they are because in their mind they're overweight or they're fat, perhaps. So this person is very reliant on their body weight and their shape for their self-evaluation. And this was pulled from NAAD.org, which is the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Eating Disorders, that I happened to find while I was doing research for this presentation. So, according to the DSM-5, anorexia nervosa is listed in there. And for part A of this diagnostic criteria, so it states the restriction of energy intake relative to requirements, the leading to a significantly low body weight in the context of age, sex, developmental trajectory, and physical health. Significantly low weight is defined as weight that is less than minimally normal for children and adolescents and less than minimally accepted. So according to the DSM-5, anorexia can be gauged based on what is the normal, what is the norms, the weight within inside the norms for whatever the age population may be. Under B in the DSM-5, it states that intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat, or persistent behavior that interferes with weight gain, even though at a significantly low weight. So, what does this mean? I actually had a friend who passed away who was anorexic and suffered from anorexia for many years, and she actually passed away due to very low calorie intake and the physical state of her body. So at the time, I kind of didn't know too much about anorexia, and I kind of put it off to the side, so I never really thought about it. But again, this example, so she would actually eat an apple or a piece of cheese or a cracker and immediately go work out, immediately have to work out to work off that calorie that she just ingested, because in her mind she just thought that she had gained weight just from consuming that very little piece of food. So yes, they have a very intense fear of gaining weight. Under letter C, disturbance in the way in which one's body weight or shape on self-evaluation is experienced. Undue influence of body weight or shape on self-evaluation, or persistent lack of recognition of the seriousness of the current low body weight. So they're just unable to recognize or accept that their already low body weight is so serious and the seriousness of the condition, and they're just not willing to accept it. And then the DSM-5 explains the coding to us. So under F50, 2.01, restricting type. This subtype describes presentations in which weight loss is accomplished primarily through dieting, fasting, and or excessive exercise. And this would be at an unhealthy rate. And code F50.02 describes binge eating / purging type. During the last 3 months, the individual has engaged in recurrent episodes of binge eating or purging behavior. And an example of this is self-induced vomiting, so making yourself vomit, and the misuse of laxatives. So, ingesting a laxative or a pill to help you immediately dispose of that waste of what you had just consumed. So those are the different codes that are listed, and that is pretty much what is listed in the DSM-5 for the diagnostic criteria. I found a video online on YouTube, and I am a big fan of TED Talks, and I found a TED Talk with a fairly young individual, and she talked about, or the title of the video is Why Anorexia Sucks. So she suffered from anorexia, and she described that she loved going to bed not eating, because she felt so light, and she described it as feeling light as a feather. So she was light on her feet. She could get up the next day. She didn't feel heavy. She felt very light. She felt like she could do anything and go anywhere and just be as light as a feather. She also talked about how anorexia is glamorized in the media, which I start to think about, and what immediately popped into my mind is all of the models that we see on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure many of them are not anorexic or suffer from anorexia, but they have a very low body weight, at least low body weight compared to me, and many people that I know. So the media portrays it as, it's in to be thin, and this thin body type, and if you don't fit into the mold, you don't fit into that criteria of the thin model type, then you can't function in our society. And, many women, myself, and young girls actually, become ill from seeing what the media portrays, because they want to fit in and they want to be like everyone else, and they don't want to feel uncomfortable trying on clothes. So this girl actually said how she would eat something very small, such as an apple, and she would feel guilty for doing it, for eating. She'd feel guilty for missing a workout like months ago. And there was this constant feeling of guilt anytime that she didn't follow, the routine of just not eating anything per se. And she said that she remembered lying in bed and she could feel the hunger, and she could feel, her ribs aching, and she could feel like the mattress was hurting her because she was so thin. And that's what she felt like when she laid in bed at night. And she said that the media often portrays anorexia as glamorous, but many people don't actually realize that it's a psychological factor. You can't just turn it off. You can't just flip a switch. And there is actually a long road to recovery. And it's not just, as easy per se as to start eating once again. So she said that she, prayed one evening that, this would all end and that it would stop. And she actually, at this point, began to isolate from her family. So at this point, she began her path and her road to recovery, but she did not seek medical attention. And she said that that was something that she wished that she would have done, because she didn't know that actually you can get really sick if you start consuming calories very quickly that have not been previously consumed. And due to the very low body weight, and the calories that have not been consumed, your body is sort of used to that. So to kind of consume it all right away and to just immediately start gaining all of that weight back right away in a very fast manner can actually make you very sick. So she started talking about that, and she just kind of expressed that she wished that anybody who has experienced this, who is going down this road, to please seek medical attention. So to specify the severity of anorexia, doctors can look at current BMI, or individuals can look at the current BMI on adults or for children and adolescents on the BMI chart or percentile, and where do they fall. So there's mild, moderate, severe, and then there's extreme cases. So these are all sort of the different levels of severity for someone who is suffering from anorexia. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and take a minute to check out the YouTube video. The link is in there, and it's pretty interesting because she actually just describes her own story, and she's a very brave girl. Thank you for watching. Bye.